Okay, today we're checking out the hidden lore of all the supers in The Incredibles just to really personalize their awful deaths, you know what I mean? To know how someone dies, you gotta know how they lived. Today we're gonna find out their last thoughts before they were ripped apart. It's gonna be sweet. Leave a like, subscribe, check out the channel that made this video down below, and let's get into it. Okay, the full hidden lore of The Incredibles. Let's get into it.
This video is sponsored by Manscaped. Stay tuned for more info.
You know, if you've got Tubby Joe Schmo over there with a laser pointed at his head, and he might have to wait in line a little while.
Why is this guy literally Homelander? A lot of people tend to call The Incredibles one of the darkest animated movies of all time. You guys are probably aware of all the video essays on YouTube about The Incredibles, right? The ones delving deep into why it's a subversive masterpiece and secretly one of the darkest animated movies ever made. Now these are all perfectly fine, well-constructed videos, I got no quarrel with them, but something that always confused me is how so many people these days treat The Incredibles being a way darker movie than they remembered as some sort of massive groundbreaking secret when it's like, no, like, dude, a guy throws himself off a building at the start of this movie. There's absolutely a ton of darker subtext and lore you can get from the movie.
Sometimes people just jump for it though.
Building. But I think a lot of people tend to focus on all the stuff you can get on the surface level because they're now adults and can actually comprehend the dialogue and mature themes the film has always had.
That's exactly what it is. When all this like stuff came to light recently in my brain, but it wasn't like, it was more just like, oh duh, it's like it was so obvious. I never thought about it. That's why it was trippy. You know what I mean?
Which is completely understandable. A lot of people still expect animated movies to be primarily focused on entertaining kids, and The Incredibles is one of the few animated movies they've watched that feels like it was also written with adults in mind. But yeah, The Incredibles has some dark stuff going on, and the scene that's always stuck with me since I was a kid is the scene where Mr. Incredible finds out about Operation Kronos, and we get a look at all of the superheroes that Syndrome had killed in order to train the Omnidroid. Not just because it's a fantastic scene in its own right, but also because we never actually see many of the other supers outside of The Incredibles and Frozone.
See, not gonna lie, as a kid, I watched that, I was like, damn, those dudes got messed up. Anyways, like I never really thought about it. That's why all this is so trippy now.
In fact, it's only in the sequel that we finally get to see some other supers actually using their powers. We also never see much of what life was like in the superhero glory days before they were banned. Now, the obvious reason for all of this is that we don't necessarily need to see this stuff. The Incredibles has a very tight script, and that's one of its greatest strengths. But the lore-obsessed freak within me has always been interested in getting a glimpse of what everything was like in those days. And more importantly, actually knowing who these heroes were and what they were like. Little did I know that for the past 20 years, I could have gotten this glimpse at any time I wanted. Recently, I've been seeing discussions about and clips floating around from an incredibly important piece of The Incredibles lore that I genuinely had no idea about, and not many people seem to know much about it either. I'm of course talking about the National Supers Agency tapes that can be found in the extras menu for The Incredibles on DVD, a classified compilation of taped interviews with many of the superheroes in the Incredibles universe, the majority of which were later killed by Syndrome or were already dead, giving us a glimpse into what these people were like, their powers, their personalities, relationships, and their weaknesses. And
relationships is crazy.
Half an hour's worth of optional extra content included on DVD adds so much to the existing Incredibles lore and provides some genuinely interesting and sometimes disturbing insights into what kind of people were behind the masks. I've had this in my possession for about as long as I have been alive, and not once did I ever think to check these out because I've never really been interested in the extras included with DVDs, which I know may sound heretical given just how much cool stuff used to be crammed into these extras menus, but that's just the kind of kid I was. Nowadays, given the frankly depressing state of DVDs, and there's just very little heart or soul put into their presentation or extra content, I would kill to have stuff like this back. It's so cool. Especially when you start listening to these tapes and realize they had to get a ton of voice actors to read like 1 to 2 minutes worth of dialogue each for characters that are canonically dead. This was made purely out of love and to add some additional context to an already rock solid film. Pixar used to be one of the best when it came to extra content included on DVD, and honestly, nowadays, even if they just put these kind of things on Disney Plus, I'd still be happy to get them. But anyway, I wanted to do a proper deep dive into these tapes and discuss all the little details I could get.
See, unfortunately, this kind of stuff just isn't profitable. Like, you already paid money to watch it. Why put extra stuff at the end just for like the added cherry on top? The cherry on top isn't profitable, basically, and everything's cold and sucks now.
There is technically a video about these tapes from Thai Records lol, but, and I mean no offense when I say this, it was basically just a re-upload of the tapes with about 4 minutes worth of additional commentary, and personally I think there's a lot more you can say about these tapes. Here's how this is gonna go. I'm gonna try to play each tape in full and give my commentary and analysis after one of them is finished. I may have to cut some of them short if any copyright issues arise, but I'm
gonna give my analysis of his analysis, basically.
I've noticed Pixar are pretty lax when it comes to copyright protections on these, so if I do run into any issues, I'll try to play the most important parts for you. In conjunction with the tapes, I will also be providing some lore drops from the Elastigirl prequel book set before the events of Incredibles 1 whenever necessary. This is also a handy piece of lore that not many people people know about, and it's also a pretty fun read. I hope this is more of a chill video. This is very different compared to what I usually do on this channel, so please let me know if you enjoyed and found this interesting, and I'll see if I can make some more videos like this one going forward.
Do we have to talk about the Thrilling Three? Yeah, yes, I was part of that group, and it was well-intentioned, a bit misguided. You know, let's face it, it wasn't really the Thrilling Three. It was really the Thrilling One plus two in Gazerbeam's mind. It was less than thrilling.
Shots fired, bro.
Thrilling, that's good. Well, let's see. I started out in Arizona and then migrated over to Los Angeles, which was great. I had a great long run there. A lot of work to be done. A lot of superheroes see Los Angeles as kind of a launching ground. And
Really?
to be honest with you, I didn't have a lot of places to launch to from there. The solar-powered thing, you know, it's good for the environment, but it's not so good for me. It limits my ability. It limits my work hours. It makes me look like an idiot if something happens at night. You know, really, it's really hard when it's nighttime for me because I'm a rather social person. I like to dance. I like to go out to dinner, and if something horrible happens, my power's not going on because the sun's not out, and so it can be frustrating at times.
Damn, bro, California's not the place for her.
Breaks out at a tanning salon. I'm done for.
I was born here in LA, so it's like cool thinking of all the supers coming here. But then I'm thinking of like The Boys, where they secretly kill people in their weird super-powered sex parties.
One thing you'll immediately notice about these tapes is the fact that every hero's weakness is either written down or said out loud by the hero being interviewed. You'll also remember that in the movie, Syndrome had spent a good while killing off these exact supers one by one, and to do that he would have had to have access to some sort of classified files to know about their secret identities and locations. Hunting down this many heroes who are not only in hiding but are protected by a small branch of the government is no small feat, and I personally believe that Syndrome somehow gained access to these files, which gave him all the information he needed. And I don't think it would have been that difficult for him to obtain these files given his career as an arms dealer, and he likely had a good relationship with any government or agency buying from him. Then there's also the fact that Mirage does most of the scouting and spy work for him, as seen when she's tailing Bob and Lucius at the start of the movie, and when she successfully sneaks into Insurer Care to spy on Bob and deliver the message to him when he's not looking. This would also be a good reason for why these tapes were even made or thrown into the DVD as a bonus, giving us a look at all of the files Syndrome had on supers in order to kill them off one by one and train the Omnidroid. As you likely saw and heard, Apogee gets her powers via solar panels, which, to be a bit of a nitpicking douche for a second, is very funny considering the golden age of supers like it took place in the 40s. Supers were likely banned in 1947, and commercially viable solar panels weren't really a thing until 1954.
Yeah, but it's kind of a different universe. It was like that futuristic in the past type thing. You know what I mean? It's hard to kind of describe.
Hey, look, we're overthinking the Incredibles here. I can be a history nerd if I want to. And she makes it very
I mean, there's people with superpowers in it, bro. Are we going for peak realism here? What's going on?
clear that she's next to useless at night. It can be rightfully assumed that Syndrome took advantage of this by having the Omnidroid attack her either at night or in an enclosed space with no light source. We also learn that she was part of the superhero group called the Thrilling Three, that consisted of her, Gazerbeam, and the Phylange. We'll learn later on
The
that superhero
Phylange?
groups weren't that uncommon back in the day, but that they tended to fizzle out and disband due to friction between members, which may have added to the growing public resentment towards supers, given how the disbanding of these groups tarnished the national symbol of patriotism, which is something you probably don't want to do in a recently post-World War II America.
Those commie bastards.
I am very independent. I don't need helicopters. I don't need airplanes. I can heat the air underneath me and lift right up, and I don't have equipment. The flames come straight out of me. What a waste.
Those videos of the supers dying, Blazestone was one of the worst, because she can't do much, dude. Like, foot's fired to a robot.
Some superheroes have equipment, and I think that's just a waste. You have to maintain it all the time. I just have my super suit, and that's about it. I like my independence. You know, the NSA knows that I'm very independent, and, you know, a team, you know, surrounding, you know, they do look after me, and which is good and everything. You know, they always have to keep an eye on me. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I only light a couple of things on fire that I
This chick did so much cocaine before the interview.
shouldn't light on fire. I mean, it's not my fault. I mean, it is very hard to, you know, keep everything under wraps. Sometimes my temper, you know, I can get a little bit hot-headed, but not much. I mean, when I think about things that kind of anger me just a little bit, you know, then boom, you know, the building lights on fire, and then next thing you know it, the hills light on fire, and then Frozone has to come along and you know, cool everything down, and then I have to be grateful and say, oh, thank you, Frozone, I really appreciate it. But, you know, he's really annoying. He thinks he's all that, and I do enjoy being independent. You know, they recognize that. And
That's so cool, dude. That's so cool. So her powers, whenever they burn everything down, Frozone comes in and saves the day. That's awesome. I just love more Frozone lore. How she's complaining about that's crazy.
I love my powers, and, you know, I don't have to carry any equipment on me, and I really enjoy that.
Could you
Coping. She sounds like she's coping.
Wait, what? Do you want me to say the whole thing again? I thought it was perfectly clear. You want me to go back again, the whole thing? I don't understand. Oh, I am so sorry. I know what the problem is. I keep on forgetting which dimension I'm in. Wait. Which dimension am I in?
Blazestone is very interesting, and before anyone
What?
asks, no, she does not have any dimensional warping powers or anything of the sort. I've seen a few people online suggest that her comments about not knowing what dimension she's in after realizing she's talking too fast suggest that she travels through different dimensions, despite that not being one of her listed powers at all. She's just described as a pyrotechnic by the NSA, and if she did have powers of this magnitude, I believe they would have absolutely had it written down somewhere. So for all we know, she just has a habit of talking really fast. It's not a very exciting answer, but it is funny. As seen in the notes here, before she became a superhero, she was arrested in jail for some sort of crime that we're not told about, only to be recruited and rehabilitated by the National Supers Agency, who kept her on a tight leash while she performed hero work. Surprisingly, she used to be in a relationship with Frozone, but that doesn't really get elaborated on too much, and she even teamed up with Universal Man as a dynamic duo called Beta Force, who seemed to only operate during the night compared to most of the other heroes who operated at basically any time.
That's so funny. Didn't Frozone say, like, Super Babe's always trying to tell you their secret identity, or I don't know, he jokes about it. It's cool that he actually did sleep with a bunch of them in the lore.
However, she would defect from the NSA and fall on the wrong side of the law once again later on. This isn't explained in the NSA tapes, but is actually shown in the Elastigirl prequel book, where she organized a group of criminals together in order to steal a bunch of stuff and leave the city, only to be foiled by Elastigirl, Downburst, Mr. Incredible, Frozone, and even Universal Man. Sometime after Blazestone was released from jail, she was targeted by Syndrome, who likely took advantage of her weakness to water and cold temperatures.
Damn, dog. I want to see Gazerbeam stuff. He's such a gangster.
My
And
powers
Gamma
are
Jack.
atomic density manipulation, ability to reshape matter. Say you have a cut
Like
or a
freaking
boo-boo,
Carl.
on your arm. I can, I can probably do something about that. I'm not exactly a Band-Aid. I'm a little bit better than that. I'll actually
Jimmy's
heal
mom?
it. So I got my start in a doctor's office, actually. It seemed like a good place to start at the time, but it's pretty boring in there, actually, and I got a little tired of it. The doctors, they didn't appreciate what I was doing as much anymore, and I wanted something a little sexier, than just cleaning up wounds. So I thought I would try this whole superhero thing, see how that went for me. Currently, I'm focusing in on trying to reshape different materials into bicycles. It's sort of a hobby. I'm starting to gain some acceptance within
I don't really
the
feel so bad
superhero
about
community.
Syndrome killing this one
I've gone
anymore.
to conferences and stuff, and at first I started in the back of the room, just sort of as an onlooker. Now I have my own, I have a table I get to sit at now. Some heroes talk to me. Especially if they want a bicycle.
Downburst seems fairly chill, honestly. He doesn't seem like the strongest hero ever, but his atomic manipulation powers seem fairly neat. By the time this interview was recorded, it didn't seem like he got very far of making them super useful, given his healing capabilities were only limited to small wounds, which in all fairness does seem pretty handy in battle. The Elastigirl prequel book, however, did show that he had gotten more effective of healing, and his atom generation abilities also led to him creating the original Elasticycle for Elastigirl. A lot
Ooh,
of
that's
Downburst's
cool.
lore seems to be closely tied to Elastigirl, honestly. Despite not being the strongest hero ever, he shockingly did manage to beat the second version of the Omnidroid, which a lot of people would look over because the Kronos Unveiled scene in The Incredibles cuts away on the second version killing Blazestone, and then cuts back to Downburst being killed by the third version. Downburst
I forgot to put a battery in my camera. I feel so bad talking crap about this guy. I forgot he did kill one of the Omnidroids, and he built Elastigirl's bike, and he just loved his bicycles. I don't know why I was so hard on him, bro. It's just because he's not very heroic, but like that, maybe that's what makes him a
doesn't seem to
hero.
have any real serious weaknesses listed on here, so it's likely the Omnidroid just beat him through sheer brute force after learning all his moves in the first fight. Also, as a side note, can we talk about just how incredible the voice acting is in these tapes? Without exaggeration, this is some of the most natural and realistic sounding voice work I've ever heard. It really does feel like these characters are having casual, down-to-earth conversations, and it really sells how interesting these are to listen to, and also how kinda eerie this all is when you really think about it. 90% of these people are dead, and the realistic voice acting really sells that these were all real people with their own lives. These aren't just one-off cartoon characters created for the express purpose of being killed off screen. A lot of thought was put into all of their powers, designs, and personalities. It makes
Good world
Syndrome's
building.
superhero genocide feel so much more tragic, and listening to these classified government recordings of them in their prime is oddly creepy.
Not Dynaguy.
Being a superhero, one of the first things you gotta do is figure out what you want the people to call you. I started out, well, let's go with the power, but forehead ray disintegration guy. That was too long. I couldn't do that every time I went out to save someone. Walk up to a supervillain, it's like, stop, it's forehead ray disintegration man, and by then he's already turned tail and run. So one day I'm having lunch in the local diner.
It's a good point.
And I'm really desperate. I haven't thought of a name yet, so I'm just looking around. It's like Forkman didn't work. How about Spoon Dude, Banana Cream Pie Throwing Man, Black and White TV Guy, Menu Mensch. That didn't work. The Napkin Dispenser Guy. I didn't.
His death actually makes a lot more sense now.
I see the placemat.
I did it again.
And thinking maybe Diner Guy, but no way. Like if my name's Diner Guy, it's like I'm only protecting the diner when people come in.
Named after a food diner?
I didn't want to restrict myself to that. Keep thinking Dynaguy. It actually fit together.
I thought it was like dinosaurs or something.
It had a good ring to it. So we started saying it to myself.
Wow.
It was like dynamite and dynamo and dynamic and dinosaur. They all sort of meant big and powerful, and I just think all those words, they really sounded dynamic, which you put them together and you get me.
Dynaguy is the first hero we listen to.
I think a lot of them may have adult autism.
Supers were banned in the first movie, being one of the many victims of cape-related suit malfunctions.
Dynaguy, he had a great look. Oh, the cape and the boots.
No capes.
There isn't a whole lot we can get from Dynaguy other than he shot disintegration rays from his forehead, and he was the original member of the Phylange, only to be replaced by Gazerbeam after he died. It's also written down that the NSA managed to recover his iron propulsion gauntlets and considered reassigning them to another hero after his death.
Damn, dude, damn. Elastigirl is a G.
When
She's
you're a female
awesome.
Superhero, getting clothes that don't wear out after a couple of wearings. I mean, after one good fight, I don't want to look like a housefrau.
I never noticed I never thought about her stats. Like she's stretchy. I was just, she's stretchy. Just tripping out. Her going from like 30 meters to 1 millimeter is nothing. But now I'm realizing we kind of do see it in that one scene where she's like breaking in to save Mr. Incredible. But still, to see it in writing, dude.
Like I'm wearing a burlap sack. So, I've spent so much money. I've been broke trying to put together a good wardrobe for work. And that's just when is this problem going to be solved for me? I can't wait for the day when somebody can put together a good line of action wear. Action wear that will be form-fitting, that will recover after a couple of good days of work, that can really function and has style. Okay, look. If I do a couple of good moves, hold on. If I do a couple of moves like, I'm sorry. If I do a couple of moves like
this. Jesus Christ.
Like that. I mean, look at the underarms. My armpits are like practically down to my knees. This is like very, very unattractive. It's like bagging out around my hips. And I was looking nice before.
That's so funny. Her main problem is her wardrobe, which makes sense. How do you even like master that kind of stretchy material? That's why Edna's amazing.
And now it's maybe I'm as big as a house in this thing. Hey!
Well?
Is there somebody out there? I mean, is there any, like, good wardrobe designer?
I might know someone who could do it.
Help!
Oh.
I'm looking for a little help here, okay?
Name's Edna Mode. She is a bit tough to deal with, and she won't come cheap.
You know what? I got a good question. How come the NSA, the National Supers Association, isn't paying for my action wear, huh?
Just remember to save your receipts.
I don't think you guys want me playing for any other team, do you?
Even though we're all very familiar with
funny.
Elastigirl by this point, there's still some cool points of interest here. She was offered to lead a new superhero team called Heroes Incorporated and denied the offer, and was often romantically pursued by a lot of supers and kept shooting them down, preferring her freedom and independence. This further adds to the juxtaposition shown with her and Mr. Incredible during the opening interview of The Incredibles.
I saw that. I read it when that was going on. I was like, damn, Mr. Incredible locked that down. Like, she specifically doesn't get locked down, and he did that. That's why he's incredible.
How Bob wants to settle down and raise a family, whereas Helen is still constantly thinking about hero work, and how once they got married and raised a family together, they completely swapped priorities. This interview also marks the first time Elastigirl is taught about Edna Mode, sparking their partnership and leading to the creation of her classic suit we're all familiar with.
That was
Towards the
pretty
end of
cool.
The interview, she gets a bit feisty of the NSA say about how they aren't paying for her damaged supersuits, which are costing her hundreds, potentially thousands of dollars to replace, even making what sounds like a small threat to play for a different team if this isn't sorted out for her. There's a couple of conclusions you can reach with a statement like this, but given the time period and
I don't think that's what she meant. That's a crazy assumption right there. I think she's saying that's why they should be paying it, you know what I mean? But I don't think she would switch to the other team over it.
She's probably referring to the USSR. We've already seen with the disbanding of the Feeling Free that superheroes and superhero groups were closely tied to the image of American patriotism, and given the Cold War technically commenced in the mid-1940s and before supers were banned, that gives this little threat a lot more weight. Now, I don't think Elastigirl was genuinely going to team up with the USSR if her suits weren't paid for, but I do think she was being cheeky and tried to light a fire under the NSA's ass so she wasn't forced to pay for suits that couldn't withstand her powers.
I thought she meant like another super group or something. Threatened to throw down America.
Is a superhero. There's a certain catalog of expectations that are incorporated with it. Say, the physical appearance. Yes, I stay in shape. Yes, I have the colorful outfit that goes along with it. But you see, what is inside? The perception, the sensitivity, the foresight, and the psychic awareness are what is important and what makes us different. What makes us transcend mere knocking about. Yes, I can mix it up. Oh, I can fight with the rest of them. I can knock 3 people through walls if I have to. But why do that when through the process of the mind, you can avert conflict before it happens? I can make you perceive that I'm beating you up without even touching you.
See, he's given a real intelligent speech, and his intelligence is maxed out, but his weakness, mind-reading animals, especially squirrels. His specific weakness is mind-reading squirrels, so it's
with
like...
rapier intellect. Quite frankly, there are a lot of things that come along with being a superhero, the whacking, the battering, that I find quite unpleasant. And frankly, it's the germs. They're everywhere, and they're so small, and saliva, and blood, and bits of bone and tooth. There's a lot of supervillains. Frankly, they're not clean people. They don't take care of their hygiene. I mean, you punch a mouth and who knows what's on you after that. If cleanliness is next to godliness, then ungodliness is dirty. I can deal with a messy psyche, but I cannot deal with a messy bathroom. I mean, why can't people just clean up once in a while and wipe a sink or they leave hair? Don't they see it? Don't they see the scum building up? I mean, it is just a nightmare that you walk into someone's bathroom.
Okay, I gotta go clean my bathroom after this.
In months. We're scrubbing. Are we out of time?
Everseer has a funny voice and I like him, being part of one of the few successful superhero groups in this universe, the Phantasmics. Something I've noticed of a decent number of heroes in these tapes is that some of them really aren't that strong. Downburst and Everseer seem to fill more supportive roles than actually engaging in the crime fighting themselves, with Everseer specifically relying on telepathy to avoid unnecessary violence and to reorganize the Phantasmics and coordinate an attack. I can't imagine he fared very well against the Omnidroid. Definitely wouldn't have lasted long, especially since he was facing it alone without the rest of his team. I also greatly doubt that Syndrome was able to capitalize on his weakness because... I mean, read this for a sec. It's very likely Everseer died quickly. An interesting but non-canon tidbit here is that there was a line of Incredibles comics by Boom Studios that I also had no idea existed until recently. And before the comics were cancelled and the canonicity was thrown up in the air thanks to Incredibles 2, Everseer foresaw his death at the hands of the Omnidroid years before it actually happened, and that when he was killed, his brain was preserved and was used by the main villain Zarek. That's about the extent of my knowledge regarding these comics, and what happens after this isn't known due to the comics cancellation, but I thought this was an interesting bit of trivia to add.
Hell yeah, dude.
I've had some mishaps as Frozone, but generally I've learned how to take, lemons and make lemonade, and I've been able to do some things for people that, possibly would have turned out quite badly had I not been there. I've gone on
his stats are amazing.
With, friends of mine who were looking forward to a great ski vacation, and we got there, snow was melting. Hey, I was able to go out and make that happen. I'm like the human Zamboni. One day, I must have been, maybe 1.5, 2 years old, and I had a glass of Kool-Aid, and I really wanted a popsicle. And in my mind, I was thinking, popsicle, next thing I know, Kool-Aid was frozen in the glass, I was like licking it. And from that point on, anytime I wanted to freeze something, I just thought about it being frozen, and it was frozen. I was elated. I'm a superhero because that's who I am. You know, if it was possible, I would love to just tell the world who I am and let them know. But then I'd have no privacy. There'd be, you know, babes lined up around my house. There'd be guys calling every day trying to ask for a super favor. You know how that is.
Aside from getting a recounting of the time Frozone discovered his powers, there's also an important detail here of his listed weaknesses: heat and low humidity environments. Now, no shit, right? Obviously that's Frozone's weakness. He even says as much in the movie.
You can't run on ice! I thought you could use the water in the air! There is no water in this air!
And it would probably be pretty obvious to figure out that if you're going up against an ice-based superhero, that their weakness would probably be heat-related. However, the fact that these are on the NSA files, and we've already established it's very likely Syndrome had these files, it adds more weight to the idea that the first Omnidroid fought by Mr. Incredible was not originally meant for him, but was instead meant for Frozone. Think about it, the first time we meet Mirage, she's specifically tailing Frozone and doesn't realize Mr. Incredible is with him until they save people from a burning building, where she tells whoever she's on the phone to switch targets to Mr. Incredible given Syndrome's obsession with him. It's likely they didn't have the time to change the Omnidroid to accommodate for Mr. Incredible's strengths and weaknesses, which explains why the Omnidroid chases Mr. Incredible down to the lava, as that was the plan for Frozone. It would render his powers completely obsolete due to the extreme heat. Then there's also the fact that this Omnidroid's eyes are blue instead of the red that it has later on, and the fact Syndrome already had Frozone's location written down, and it all starts to click together.
I always love that theory too. It seemed pretty obvious that he was going for Frozone. I just love how well Frozone did for himself, you know? You see his nice apartment, like he's got a nice like clothes on, you know what I mean? Because like Mr. Incredible suffers with a job he hates, paying for a bunch of kids, a family, that kind of thing. It's nice to see Frozone doing good. Alright, Gamma Jack, hell yeah. This dude is by far the most dangerous super.
There's always going to be a lot of collateral damage. There's lots of villains, and there's lots of villainous deeds going on at any given time. Part of my job is to prioritize which villains I'm going to combat, you know, so, you know, I take a look around, I see if there's any, good-looking, women who need to be rescued immediately, and then I sort of start from there and work my way down the list. You know, if you've got,
Whoa, I'm seeing a few things down here. The prone to tyrannical, megalomaniacal impulses is a bit of a red flag, but the believe supers to be a superior race. Okay, so bit of a Homelander situation here.
Tubby Joe Schmo over there with a laser pointed at his head, and he might have to wait in line a little while. Yeah, I've fought my fair share of villains, and they all have their own unique challenges. You know, they got their zombie monkeys and their giant laser robots and their super aquatic ninja pygmies. But I tell you, once in a while, the real kicker is I get these dames, man, these dame villains, and they got the curves and the hair and the big eyes, and boy, those ones, they're really, really hard to kill. You know, especially the ones that they come up and, you know, and they're looking at you and you're looking at them and you feel that simpatico, you know, like she's digging you and you're digging her, digging you, and boy, you really got to take a jog around the block real quick and, you know, sort of get your concentration back, compose yourself, because, you know, you can't get distracted by these sort of thoughts when you're going up against a super villain. That's one of the hard parts of the jobs, you know, when you come across a dame who's really something to look at, and you just gotta let her have it, because she's a villain. Yeah, those are the bad days.
This dude for sure hits women.
God, a Gamma Jack is a piece of work, alright? This was the tape that convinced me to make this video in the first place, and it's probably the most known about and discussed tape in the bunch due to how obscenely out of pocket this guy is. Firstly, let's talk about Jack's powers real quick. Controlled radiation bursts, from focused burns to complete disintegration. I really want to know how Jack even died to the second Omnidroid he fought, because he is incredibly overpowered, and given his personality, super dangerous. He can either choose to shoot you with a cancer ray or just straight up toss a nuke at you. Why would you even be a criminal in Metroville when this guy is running around? And what makes his powers more terrifying is just the kind of person Jack is. Not only does he sound like a chronic narcissist, but he's also just a bad person in general.
He does sound like a piece of crap.
He finds most attractive in a dangerous scenario and then working down the list, looking down at anyone he finds unattractive and saving them last. The NSA files also describe him as a super supremacist, believing that supers are a superior race, and that he's frequently prone to tyrannical and megalomaniacal impulses. Couple this with the fact that he gets so down bad horny when encountering a female supervillain, and nonchalantly describes his frustration frustration and difficulty with having to kill them, and the fact that unlike every other hero in these tapes, he is incredibly open about the fact that he just straight up kills people. I think we got a textbook psychopath in our hands here. I wasn't kidding with that jab at the start of the video. Gamma Jack is the closest thing the Incredibles universe has to Homelander.
He was so right. But on a side note, he kills people, sure, but he's Gamma, he's a nuke person. I don't think there's any non-lethal way to use those powers.
He scares the NSA so bad they have him under close A-level monitoring. There was a legitimate risk that this guy could have become a supervillain later down the line. I mean, Christ, his original name was Handsome Jack. I mean, you know what I'm gonna say? I'm honestly shocked it took Mr. Incredible saving a guy from killing himself and injuring a bunch of people in a train accident for the public to officially turn against heroes, when you had people like Gamma Jack running around giving people cancer and likely leaving hundreds of people to die just because he's a massive horn dog. Any so-called superhero who describes civilian casualties as collateral damage is a massive red flag. And honestly, as bad as this might sound, I'm kinda bummed they killed him off in the first movie. There is so much potential for Gamma Jack as a villain, and while it's very wishful thinking, I kinda want Incredibles 3 to focus on him if they find some way to bring him back. I mean, it's not entirely impossible he's dead. Remember, Mr. Incredible managed to evade being detected by Syndrome after his defeat, and the system had him classified as terminated. So what if Gamma Jack did survive? What if he tries to start a superhero revolution in the third movie? It won't happen, but I like thinking about the missed potential sometimes.
I was thinking there'd be like a room under the island where there's just a bunch of supers hiding from Syndrome.
I think the question I get asked the most is,
dude,
what happened with the Thrilling 3? It was working fine for me. That I have no problem working in groups. I think we were very successful.
No sense of humor.
I think at times we may have been among the best, but a team is just that, a team. And then any time you take individuals and you put them in a contained environment, they tend to react like oil and water sometimes, or peanut butter and chocolate. Although peanut butter and chocolate does taste good together, so that's actually a bad example. I quite enjoy that. I think the thing I get asked about the most, of course, is my laser vision. People tend to think it's a real picnic to have eyes that shoot lasers, but believe it or not, it's had its disadvantages. If I look at anything too intently, it tends to burst into flames, which can be a real pickle in a relationship scenario.
Oh my God.
Conversing with somebody, a normal person would be...
Dude, these supers, at least the vast majority of them, have absolutely killed innocent civilian women. A lot of the male ones, I mean, I'm getting horrible vibes.
To look them square in the eye, I avert my gaze, which is often interpreted as disinterest, or rather daft or stupid, which couldn't be farther from the truth. I'm a man of culture, a man of passion, and I would say a man of humor, which is not widely known. On the outside, I appear calm and cool, perhaps even collected, but on the inside, I'm guffawing away on the steamship of hilarity.
Man, this is ruining Gaze. I thought Gazerbeam was the coolest, most badass dude, and this is Gazerbeam?
I'm not sure if that made very much sense.
Never meet your heroes.
I didn't expect Gazerbeam's voice to be that deep, my goodness. And secondly, yeah, Gazerbeam's kinda dull. He seems like a super nice guy and everything, but the NSA writing down that he has no sense of humor is probably the funniest thing in these tapes. It's interesting to hear him talk about the Thrilling 3 in comparison to Apogee though. Apogee seemed to be very frustrated with the fact Gazerbeam seemed to take the spotlight after he replaced Dynaguy, and how they weren't much of a team at all after Dynaguy died. You throw in the fact that Apogee's powers made her useless during the night and the possibility that the Phylange was losing his powers over time, and it becomes clear they just didn't work well together, and it led to the team disbanding. Gazerbeam, on the other hand, was completely unaware anything was wrong. Not due to ego or denial or anything, but because he just isn't great with people. This can also be seen in the file for the Phantasmic, since Gazerbeam actually used to be a member of the team, but left due to him and Everseer not seeing eye to eye.
This is why I was getting vibes a couple of these supers may have had I guess just adult autism.
I find all of these details about his character fascinating, especially because in the movie we don't really know much about Gazerbeam other than he used to be friends with Bob, advocated for the restored legality of superheroes after they were outlawed, and was probably the most important player in Syndrome's downfall when he carved a password to the computer in the wall. Honestly, the more I learn about Gazerbeam, the more upset I get about his death. Incredibles 2 had a deleted memorial service scene for him that also provided a decent backstory for him, how he was encouraged to be a superhero by Mr. Incredible, Frozone, and Gamma Jack, what the fuck are you hanging around him for? And how he really struggled to integrate back into civilian life, given he was already a societal outcast and struggled with fitting in. It makes his death specifically pretty heartbreaking.
Poor guy. Hypershock has amazing powers, dude.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Hypershock. So I have seismic wave generation, which is the ability to create earthquake-like disruptions in the ground to stop the bad guys with my dual seismic amplification hammers and one on each hand. No, I did not buy them at the hardware store, haha. Fly around with my vector thrust fusion rocket rucksack getting from place to place, and my powers enter effectual and non-solid materials, but if I can get a 6.0 on the Richter scale, I can generally stop whoever's out there and... We gotta talk about this. Hang on. Hey,
That's so funny.
Hey, where's Irv? Coffee. I need. Yes. Hello.
He's matching his personality perfectly.
Nice. No, I don't want tea. I want coffee and put some aspirin in it or something. How about coffee made from aspirin? You know, you people, you just don't do your homework. And look at this. What is this? Cheap. Spend a little money on your gear if you're gonna have a super in here, okay?
It sounds like that Christian Bale tape on like the set of Batman where he like threw a phone at some, I can't remember who he...
Are you professional or not? Yes, I am. Do I fucking walk around and rip that? No, shut the fuck up, Bruce.
He did something. He threw something at some like underemployed.
And you, who are you? You know, I could be out solving crime at the very least.
Damn it.
We're solving this hangover. Ow! Oh.
Now, obviously, it would be
He's just a
unrealistic
big
to expect
baby.
a movie as surprisingly grounded in reality as The Incredibles to not have a couple of sour superheroes walking around who aren't exactly the best people. And while it's very tough to top Gamma Jack in this department, Hypershock is a bit concerning. The tape being recorded while he's suffering from a really bad hangover doesn't help, but the fellas pointing out that he has a really bad temper and likes to drink often are not exactly qualities you'd like to have in someone who will be attempting to save your life. Given a number of casualties Gamma Jack has more than likely caused and a number of people he's refused to save, I don't think it's out of the question to suggest that Hypershock may have been drunk on the job at many points, and I wouldn't be surprised if anyone being saved by Hypershock found themselves a little uncomfortable due to his explosive temper.
Wonder what else is gonna get ruined for me.
Macroburst audio file incomplete.
Didn't Macroburst kill an Omnidroid also?
Audio file for Macroburst mission recovered, but determined incomplete by NSA Division Delta.
Macroburst is the first interview to be completely missing, and something about hearing all of the previous interviews in full and suddenly being hit with
Macroburst audio file incomplete. Damage during mission.
Look at this stuff. Oddly androgynous due to constant wind disruption, is obsessed with maintaining her hairstyle. That what?
Described as oddly androgynous, and their gender was rather ambiguous. Not even the NSA could determine if they were male, female, or NB. Not much is known about them besides the fact that they were the first hero to destroy an Omnidroid, but would inevitably fall victim to the second version.
He did. Or she did. She did. Even the freaking NSA doesn't know.
Audio file for Metaman found missing. Assumed confiscated during surprise attack by Baron von Ruthless.
Metaman's file is also missing, but there's actually a decent amount here. For one thing, Metaman was also shown as one of the many heroes who died due to a cape malfunction as shown in the first movie, which is a shame because looking at his stats, he seemed absolutely cracked.
How did he have these stats and die to a freaking elevator shaft? Indestructibility is really everything. They all have such, like, a few of them so far have had amazing stats. It's indestructibility. That's like the main thing. That's what it comes down to.
3 out of 4 bars maxed out, 1 nearly there, and only suffering in intelligence and indestructibility. This would suggest that Metaman might have been one of the strongest heroes on the planet. Look at how many powers this guy had. Flight, super strength, x-ray vision, teleportation, magnetic manipulation, partial invisibility, and could even communicate with aquatic mammals. That's a massive hodgepodge of powers to throw into one guy. He's like a Superman Swiss Army knife. In fact, it's likely he was considered by many to be this universe's equivalent to Superman and seemed to genuinely be committed to hero work.
I can see it.
If any other hero had asked the NSA if they could oversee all of the current superhero teams, I think they would have been shut down. The fact the NSA were considering it shows just how much they trusted him. The reasoning for the file being missing is that it was apparently stolen by Baron von Ruthless, a notorious supervillain in the world of the Incredibles and the sworn enemy of Metaman. So notorious, in fact, that there was even a time where Frozone got caught by him and managed to escape due to Ruthless's habit of monologuing, which if you don't remember is the story Lucius recounts to Bob near the start of the movie.
What does Baron von Ruthless do?
He starts monologuing.
He starts monologuing. I mean, the guy has me on a platter and he won't shut up.
I think if Metaman had lived beyond his cape malfunction, Syndrome probably would have been cooked, right? Like, I just don't see how he would have died to the Omnidroid.
That low indestructibility. That's how, for sure.
You know, some superheroes, they pay attention to their look when they're first breaking in, but then they get a little notoriety, they get a little sloppy. I mean, I don't want to, name names, but...
Mr. Inedible.
Phylange. You remember the Phylange? Oh, Phylange. I mean, I love that guy. Hey, Phylange, you know I love you, and I'm not talking out of school here, but the outfit, come on. I mean, he wore that out, but he didn't even have it cleaned. He had schmutz on it from other battles that he fought. And
get those stats, dude.
He actually worked on a signature yodel for a year. A superhero yodel. If you can grasp that, I mean... Yeah, I'd see him occasionally, we'd be at the same catastrophe. And he would come up to me, hey, Mr. I, I've been working on it, what do you think? Ooh, I mean, is that disgusting or what? Pull yourself together, Brother Phylange, you're representing something here. It was embarrassing, it was a waste of time.
I love him.
And quite frankly, it was denigrating to the profession. Kids cannot look up to a yodeler.
What I find most interesting about Mr. Incredible's file here is not just the acknowledgement from the NSA that he was extremely possessive over the Incredible, something that would become way more obvious in Incredibles 2 when he found out it was being sold at an auction.
They said it was... That's my car!
But also this little bit of info here. Ability to sense imminent danger. Now, I had no idea this was an actual power Mr. Incredible had until now. I thought he was just super strong and hard to take down, but apparently he had an uncanny ability to sense imminent danger. That alone recontextualizes a lot. Like the scene with Bon Voyage, for example. I thought he just heard the beeping of the bombs, but from the distance he was at, it had to have been almost impossible, so he probably just sensed that something was wrong before getting closer and finally being able to actually hear them. And then there's also what this adds to him in general when he has to go into hiding. Bob's midlife crisis will likely have been worsened because of this power. Constantly being able to sense imminent danger happening and the frustration he feels knowing he can't do anything about it.
I love that he has this ability.
Him or his family's safety and security and breaking the law. If
I learned about it from memes.
To sense any kind of danger before it happens, and I was forced to do nothing about it for the rest of my life when I know I can be the difference maker, would probably drive me insane. It's no wonder Bob found it hard to settle down like Helen did. He's got a stranger danger whistle going off in his head every time he walks down the street. Christ, what an agonizing 15 years that must have been.
I knew about that power for a while just because it's talked about a lot, like with all this Incredibles lore, but that right there, that point he just made, I did not consider that, like how much more it would have sucked in retirement. I went to say retirement and I stuttered and everything's ruined. Just start it.
I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I just, it's kind of off day for me. I blew out the pipes. I was trying to seal off this thing that came out of the water. The villains.
Secret identity opera singer.
And stuff. So the funny thing is I blow out my pipes by blowing out the pipes. You know what I'm saying? It's a little joke. The play on words. Yeah, well, the Thrilling Three. What can I say? That was a good idea. I mean, I'm not sure I really know what happened. People blame me and they say there were these, conflicts. Excuse me.
He's got pretty good indestructibility, to be honest.
I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, Gazerbeam and I got along fine. Excuse me, I'm having a little trouble.
This voice actor is amazing, dude.
It was a democratic situation. It was good. I don't know what people are saying. Excuse me.
He sounds like he's dying.
I like Gazerbeam. He was a good guy. Excuse me.
This is hard to listen to.
The Phylange was one of the more unpopular superheroes with the public, struggling a lot with the fact that he was never embraced by them and desperately wanting to... Despite this, he was still a part of the Thrilling Three with Apogee and Gazerbeam, but would eventually leave thinking Gazerbeam was the only one of them actually doing anything and them all not really working well as a team. And he wasn't exactly wrong about that given Apogee was rendered useless by nightfall, and Phylange's voice was regularly getting blown out due to his powers and him being hit with laryngitis, which made him pretty much useless at every time of day. Gazerbeam was the only one of them who could consistently fight crime at every hour of the day, and I think Apogee and Phylange both resented that in a way, unaffectionately calling the group Gazerbeam's gang before disbanding it. Phylange would later die to the second version of the Omnidroid, either due to his damaged vocal cords or from Syndrome capitalizing on his weakness to sonic feedback.
Man, that team sounds pretty useless for the most part.
Audio file for Plasmabolt erased
Oh, she had the
inadvertently
saddest
due to
death tape,
Plasmabolt's
bro.
electromagnetic aura. Scheduled to re-record.
Despite Plasmabolt's file being missing and me not really having much to say about her because of that, it's worth mentioning that she is one of the only heroes featured on these tapes, heroes who died by cape malfunctions notwithstanding, to have not been confirmed dead. This is a tricky one because it's very possible she was also targeted and killed by Syndrome, but when Mr. Incredible is searching through the files, she never once shows up as being terminated. It's worth mentioning that there are multiple cuts in this scene, either to show Bob's reactions to finding out many of his friends and fellow supers have been killed while the computer is still showing them off screen, or to cut back to Helen and Edna. It's very possible that Plasmabolt could have shown up on the computer off screen, but nothing has been confirmed. It certainly makes more sense for her to be dead in my eyes, since she would have been the only surviving member of the Phantasmics, but the possibility of her survival is still there.
Yeah, her death tape was crazy. Like, the fan-made one was horrifying, bro. Her wings getting pulled off.
High school, that's when I realized I had the ability to possess other people, to send psychic waves to other people to get them to do things that I really wanted them to do.
Look at that. Look at that indestructibility, bro. She was vaporized on Syndrome's Island. You can't mind control a robot.
I had a crush on the quarterback of the football team, who was also my best friend's boyfriend. I psych-waved him into asking me to the homecoming dance and breaking up with Shelly.
Wow. That's like, kind of...
And the more I practiced it, the shorter amount of time it took. You know, I could just sort of look at someone or look at a picture or see them passing by and think this thought or this action or whatever, and
it sounds like she pretty much indiscriminately alters people's free will. Kind of getting worse vibes from her than Gamma Jack. She sounds like a demon.
It would just happen. Never really used it to harm people, except for all those girls I made the guys break up with because I wanted to date them. Kind of freaky, actually.
At least the women Gamma Jack got with were, I'm assuming, voluntary. It sounded voluntary. He's very disrespectful about it, but these men are being forced into it.
Psychwave is a fucking freak. I wasn't kidding earlier when I said there were some pretty disturbing supers in this universe, and Psychwave is definitely one of them. I really want to know the limitations of her powers, because she's able to possess anyone she wants through either looking at them or looking at a picture of them. Like, that is just insane to me. Not to mention how gleefully she's talking about how she would just randomly practice possessing other people to do her bidding, to the point of possessing multiple guys to have them break out with their girlfriends simply because she wanted to date them instead, including her best friend's boyfriend, by the way. Psychwave is absolutely unhinged, and the fact that she's paranoid does not surprise me. Recounting all of this stuff with a smile and looking back on it while laughing is just peak sociopath to me. She is sick in the head. There is some debate as to whether or not she survived the Omnidroid, despite being shown that she was terminated. The official Incredibles wiki states that Syndrome never found her body, but I can't for the life of me find a detail that confirms that. So as far as I know, that crazy bitch is dead.
See, I always joke about, like, in that, there's a game recently. Oh, there's a Gamma Jack right under me, perfect. Nope, he's nuking, that's what that is, we're screwed. Bro, Gamma Jack had to be killed. Syndrome had to kill that guy. That dude was a liability. This Incredibles Roblox game where you can simulate the powers of Gamma Jack, and I'm always like, yeah, dude, Syndrome did a good job killing that one. I didn't even know about his weird stuff. He was too powerful. He had to be killed. Syndrome actually took out a few pretty bad people, except, like, he actually did some good. You know, this has changed my mind greatly right now. Thank you, Syndrome, for getting rid of these weirdos.
Splashdown audio file irretrievable due to water damage.
Nah.
Splashdown's recording is missing, and aside from being another cape victim, I'm good just moving on to the next one. There's not much to say here.
Oh, poor bastard, bro. Stormicide's a crazy name.
There's vapors, kind of gases in the air, and I can take them in. I'm kind of like a sponge in that way. I emit them however I want. I can emit your oxygen, I can emit carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide,
functions like a
whatever
sponge.
You need. It really depends on the situation. Say there's a fire, and I gotta save people or whatever. Basically, I can take the oxygen out of the air, and that stops the fire. On the other hand, if there's a bad guy, I just emit the oxygen, and the fire gets a little crazier, and then bad guys smoked. It's kind of awesome. Because I'm all about gas emissions. Yes, I have been the butt of many jokes. Maybe it's just because I'm too... What? What? Oh, I said butt. What do you... Ha ha ha. Oh,
Oh, I
Good
love
time.
her.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I've got powers. They involve gases. What do you want?
She's funny. I'm sad she's
Stormicide
dead.
seems like one of the cleaner superheroes in this world, honestly. I could make some juvenile jokes about her powers, but they already did that for me, and they're also just genuinely pretty cool. What I found the most tragic about her, though, was the fact that she was studying chemistry and fighting crime while caring for her ailing uncle. If
I read
uncle
that
was
too.
still alive by the time Syndrome found her, then it's likely he was left alone without a caretaker and probably died alone without anyone around to keep him fed or medicated, which is genuinely pretty heart-shattering to think about.
Poor old bastard. I mean, she got ripped apart on an island, so...
Stratogale's mission audio file deemed incomprehensible. Suspect either faulty recording equipment or a high level of ambient wind noise.
Wait, her weakness is teenager. Oh, no, she's a teenager and that's her weakness. Okay, I got you. So there's one teenager out there that hunts her to death, evidently.
Today I found out that Stratogale was a teenager. You know, the character in The Incredibles that got caught by her cape and sucked into a jet turbine. Literally shredded to death. Yet, she was just a teenager apparently, which... Jesus Christ. It hits harder when you read her file and realize that she was genuinely a really sweet person.
She worked at a bird hatchery.
For God's sake. Some part of me thinks that Stratogale's death stuck with Edna the most out of all of the heroes who died from cape malfunctions. It's very easy to view Edna as the funny and tactless character that she is, but as funny as her whole no cape spiel is, it's clear she's vehemently against capes for a damn good reason. If a suit I designed resulted in the death of a teenager, I would also be kinda shaken up by that fact and never design a suit with a cape attached to it ever again. By the way, I think it's obvious by this point that whatever timeline The Incredibles does have, it isn't exactly delicately written. Stratogale was apparently a friend of Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl, showing up at their wedding along with a bunch of other heroes. Her appearance does not look any different to the time she died. Most signs point towards The Incredibles being set in the early 1960s, placing the years Bob and Helen got married and Supers being banned around 1947. The exact date Edna gives to Stratogale's death is April 23rd, 1957, a full 10 years after Supers were banned. Not only does it not really make much sense why there's high-profile super activity going on 10 years after it was outlawed, but Stratogale is apparently supposed to have still been a teenager here, which I don't believe makes much sense. Either the NSA files haven't been properly updated since 1947 and were only updated to mark her death in 1957, or this entire timeline wasn't thought out that well. Sorry to be annoying about it, but it's been bugging me for a while.
I would imagine the NSA just simply doesn't remove weaknesses, like even if they aren't necessarily your weakness anymore, if it's in your, like it was in your file. Like there could still be some way to weaponize that, I don't know. They wouldn't delete a weakness. Thunderhead.
Thunderhead
Dope name.
PSA, stay in school, take one.
Hello, kids, this is Thunderhead. I wasn't always a superhero, but now I am.
Adopted single father of 5 children.
I didn't
And then died by a
graduate.
suit?
I thought I was trying to tell him to graduate, wasn't I? Hello, kids, this is Thunderhead. Please stay in school, otherwise you'll wind up like me. That's not right. I don't know where I'm going with this. You told me there was going to be a script.
He sounds like Eeyore.
Well, I don't read. But you were gonna tell me what to say in through the headphones, and you're not telling me anything except go again. Hello, kids, this is Thunderhead. I didn't like school much, but maybe you will, because you probably won't have the same teachers I had. That's not so good. Just aim high.
This man is a father of 5 children?
Thunderhead believes in you. Thank you.
Yeah, seems like a good
might
guy.
Be the saddest of the bunch. Edna described him as a really nice guy in the movie, but this tape really sells that for me. I get the impression Thunderhead isn't just dim, but might be mentally impaired in some way. He didn't graduate high school either, and his comment about his teachers gives the impression he may not have had the most respectful or accommodating upbringing. He also clearly struggles with the directions being given to him for the stay in school PSA he's recording, and it just makes me feel really bad for the guy. He also adopted 5 kids of his own that he raised alongside his roommates, only referred to as Scott. I'd make a comment about how it can be easily inferred from this that he's probably gay, but I can't really say for sure. Still,
I feel like it's pretty obvious he's gay with Scott.
5 kids to be raised by his roommate and no one else is just really sad, honestly.
Yeah, Jesus, I hope Scott could take care of him on his own, damn. Universal man.
Most superheroes have the alter ego so they can have the so-called normal life. Me, I choose not to.
Freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I get so much flack for not having an alter ego. I mean, it's supposed to be a secret. No one's supposed to know. So what's the point? So if I take a girl on a date, I'm wearing the costume, sure. They like to bask in the awe of Universal Man. But when we're alone, you know, with the candlelight music and the pericomo and the fragrant oils and things of this nature, then they come to me and they say, oh, Universal Man, maybe you take off the mask. Maybe we can see who's underneath. There's no one underneath. They would be horrified if I asked them to take off their face. This is what Universal Man wears. This is me. Other than being indestructible because of my high density, I am just like you. And that's when
he sounds very stable.
The late night recriminations and the slamming of the doors and the shattering bottles and the things of this nature and the redistribution of the assets and the it's not me, it's you, it's not you, it's me. But in Universal Man's experience, it's always you.
Universal Man is just really funny to listen to. He's incredibly unstable, but I don't get the same level of disgust I get from hearing him speak like I do with Gamma Jack and Psychwave. I'd say he's far more redeemable at least. It's clear he has incredibly low self-esteem, being one of the few superheroes to not have a secret identity whatsoever. What I want to know is how the hell he died to the first Omnidroid. He was the first superhero targeted by Syndrome and the very first hero to die to the Omnidroid, despite his powers being absolutely cracked. He may not be the strongest hero ever, but he's nigh on indestructible and can increase his molecular density to make him even tougher to take down and even stronger to boot. Not to mention he can alter his personal density all the way to the level of a literal black hole, and if he did this, the entire world would just end. By all accounts, he should be one of the few characters in this world who is practically invincible, and yet he still died to the first Omnidroid. Fucking how? I get that he's clearly not intelligent, being like a couple points above Thunderhead in that regard, but he had to have been caught off guard and killed immediately, right? I just can't imagine a scenario where he could see the very first Omnidroid coming and still die somehow. Sorry, Universal Man, your powers are cool and your voice is funny, but you are the biggest fraud in this universe by a long shot.
I'm thinking maybe, like, what's her name? Mirage had him, like, distracted with his, like, overly, like, self-conscious stuff regarding taking his suit off, and then in that distraction, he was killed because, like, she is a beautiful woman in that universe, and I could see that maybe happening. Learning a lot today. So at the end, I shouldn't have paused it right there.
And those were all the tapes available on the Incredibles DVD. I hope this was an informative and interesting watch. I certainly found myself in awe at how much detail was put into these despite them being completely optional content. There's still a lot about the Incredibles lore I haven't fully tapped into yet, like the Elastigirl prequel book, and the now non-canon comic books. There's so much Incredibles media out there that I just had no idea about, and I'm very eager to learn more and put some pieces together. Who knows, one day I might make the bizarre lore of the Incredibles before Chupo does. No offense, Chupo.
Bro. Cartoon sheet? I know where you live.
Oh. Anyway, thanks for watching. That's the end of the video. Play Yakuza or something.
I learned a lot. I learned most of the heroes I thought were really cool growing up were actually either just dull, stupid, or horrible people. But there's a few in there that are still freaking awesome and amazing. I guess just because I expected them all to be kind of like Mr. Incredibly, like, evening, kids, like, you know what I mean? But no, they're all just regular people with superpowers. It's actually kind of cool. That's also what makes Mr. Incredible, Frozone, and like any other gangster like Elastigirl stick out, really. But yes, this was a cool video. Definitely freaking makes a lot of the deaths a little gnarlier as well. Now I just hope someone makes some crazy animated video depicting them all dying in more detail than I could possibly fathom. But yeah, leave a like, subscribe for more stuff. Check out this channel, link down below, and I'll see you next time.